Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Hey everyone.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah. I'm Tom Ryman. David Bell is sick this week, so...
What are we saying he's sick with?
Alex flu.
Yeah.
It's like swine flu,
Yeah.
only more clam-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Schmidt-fluenza.
The Schmidt-fluenza, yeah.
That's what he's got. That's it. Well, I'm Adam Ganser. I'm filling in for David Bell, who might be dead by the time you're hearing this.
Yeah, he could be dead now.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
I'm not checking on him.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. That's I stopped at his apartment to grab this recording equipment, kept driving.
Yeah, strange smell, didn't investigate.
Threw it in the trunk, kept driving.
Well, I don't feel too bad for him because he forced us to watch the following movie that we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, we just watched Death Wish.
Yeah, we did.
I love my family. But when they needed me most...
911, what is your emergency?
There's men, they're breaking into my house. I think they're here. No.
I failed to protect them.
Dad, where's Mom?
The men who did it are out there.
So there's nothing that you can do? Is that what you're saying?
If a man really wants to protect what's his,
I want to buy a gun.
he has to do it for himself.
Oh,
We really
man.
watched that.
Yeah, it's a remake / new adaptation because it's based on a novel, which I didn't realize.
Didn't know that either. Don't know why that would be a novel.
It's a strange thing to make a novel,
Yes,
right? Like,
it
why
is.
write that? Like, who
Yeah.
sits down to write the great American novel and writes Death Wish?
It's it's so like it's not sprawling in any way.
No, it's a
not,
very it's
grandiose.
that's a screenplay. Like, you sit
Yeah.
down.
Yes,
That's a screenplay.
That's
like
what it seems like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like a novel you sit down and write.
Yeah, it seems like a guy who'd seen Batman.
Right.
This movie.
It's like, I want to make Batman, but worse.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Without the bats part.
Yeah, without any of the stuff that makes people like Batman.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah.
So what was your general impression of it?
Well, I like Eli Roth, who is the director of this film.
Yes, I'm very neutral about Eli Roth.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's a competent filmmaker who is a bad writer.
He didn't write this though, right?
No,
It
he
was somebody
didn't.
Else.
He didn't, but you can kind of still feel that sensibility because there's
It's
a
very
lot.
clumsy.
There's a lot of. It's an entertaining movie, but it's not a good movie.
Well,
Like-
I will. As I was saying to you when we walked out of the theater, I think most bad movies are also boring.
Yes.
Almost all bad movies make you care so little that
You're just waiting for it to
that
be
you're
over.
bored.
Yeah.
That didn't happen with this movie.
No.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
And says something about its merits.
Mhm.
You know, I wasn't looking at my phone.
Right.
You know.
It's bad in the way that Con Air is bad.
Yeah, but Con Air is way more.
It's way more fun. But
Yeah, and cohesive.
yeah,
As silly as it
yeah,
is.
that's true. That's true. That's true.
Like this movie has, I would say, three whole sections that are not emotionally related to each other.
It does. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the big problem with it.
And that's me starting off with the qualifier that Eli Roth is not a very good writer because he doesn't
Yeah.
recognize those things in the film.
Hmm.
Like, okay, so the basic premise of the movie is Dr. Paul Kersey, played by Bruce Willis,
Yeah.
who looks more and more like Homer Simpson every
And
time I
less
see
and less
him.
like a doctor. Like,
Right.
fucking nice try.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like an aging boxer. Like,
He really does.
just cast him. I know it's like, well, I mean, he doesn't. He wants to play against type. It's like, no, look at Bruce. That's who he can play.
Like, make him say one body part that's not the standard ones you learn in first grade.
Right.
Like, let him pronounce one complex body part.
Just-
He can't do it.
He can be policeman or boxer.
Right. He can be exactly the character that M. Night Shyamalan cast him in
Right.
Unbreakable.
Yeah.
That's who he can be.
That's that. Yeah.
Also, the best version of this story so far is Unbreakable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. His family gets his wife is killed and his daughter is put into a coma when during a home invasion gone wrong. They're home for a burglary they're not supposed to be home for, and so
They kind of fight. There's one... Like, that scene is long, too. not even necessarily uncomfortable, just long. The robbery. Like, it goes on for like 10 minutes. You know?
It would have made sense if the movie did a certain thing that it doesn't do, and we're definitely going to talk about that.
Because I can see a lot of good versions of what this movie could have been.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like he puts a lot of those seeds in there, but that doesn't connect the dots. Like,
yes.
So, and the basic premise is, okay, the robbery goes wrong, his wife's killed, Dar's in a coma, he wants justice, the wheels of justice turn very, very slowly.
In a crime-ridden Chicago.
Right, they really hammer it home. That really it's like, Chicago is all this gun violence and people getting shot all the time, which is, sure, that's valid.
Yeah.
The reason the movie can't make up its mind what it wants to say about gun violence, but you came down hard. Problem. You came down harder on.
I think that pro gun violence. I think that's what it inadvertently became.
Yeah,
is an argument for gun control, or not gun control,
for owning guns.
Yes.
Against gun control.
I think it ultimately became an advocate for that cause, whether willingly or not.
So yeah, that first. Let's talk about that burglary scene.
Right. Do you want to finish your synopsis though? Because otherwise, I feel like
he decides to take the law into his own hands. Becomes a vigilante.
Yeah.
Kills everyone involved in the robbery.
And other people.
Just random criminals.
Yeah, he just goes around killing criminals.
Like, his first night out as a vigilante to, like, solve the case of his dead wife and possibly brain-dead child is to just go out and shoot random people committing a crime.
Yes, and the fuzz kind of half-assedly begin to narrow it down to him.
Yeah.
Right? And then his daughter wakes up from the coma, so he renounces his vigilantism. And then and then there's kind of just like one last shootout. Because he didn't kill everybody.
Right.
And that's the movie.
And then the movie ends.
And that's it. You know? And his daughter goes off to college.
And he moves to college with her. Like, he moves to New York, too.
Oh, is that what they said?
Yeah, he says I'm 3 stops down.
That's right, he did say that.
Yeah, so...
That's dumb. I hate that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Like, why? Yeah, like, I just think her going to college is... I know this is, like, the smallest of beans to fucking argue about.
No, let's get into it.
Like, her going to college after all that shit that happened is completely bananas. Like, that
There's
does
a lot
not
of shit
happen.
that's completely
that
bananas.
That does not happen.
Yeah, she would need to take at least the first semester
She takes a year to travel, or she takes a year to fucking, like, go to...
recuperate, and, like, deal with what's happened.
They have one of the worst screenwriting lines I've heard since I went to film school to explain how much time has elapsed from when she had the coma and woke up to when the final scene takes place, about her physical therapy. Like, they just have like 5 lines about her physical therapy that you never see, you never participate in.
Yeah.
It just happened all off screen to explain why she can walk now.
Yeah.
And how much time has passed.
Well, when that happened,
it was bananas.
You said out loud in the theater, "Oh God."
I get very impatient with shitty movies.
I wasn't sure what you were remarking on.
I was very upset about that line.
I didn't know if you were empathizing with this young girl who had to go through physical therapy, or you were commenting on... It turns out you were commenting on the screenwriting.
No, I couldn't empathize with her because it was fucking impossible. The movie wouldn't let me, like, watch her go through physical therapy.
No.
You know? And also just, like, we don't even need to know that. Do a fucking title card. Like, just cut to a title card. It says 4 weeks later.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how movies do this. You know? I don't know. It's just completely bananas.
Yeah.
It's totally bananas. I couldn't get over it. Yeah. Okay, so do you mind if I frame this conversation in a way that I was thinking the whole time?
Go ahead.
So, here's the thing that you have to remember about this movie. Mm-hmm. It exists in a world where the movie Taxi Driver already exists, and the show Breaking Bad already exists. Because those two influences were both better versions of a man sort of taking his, like... of a man sort of going into vigilantism, right? Like...
Right. Because it does the thing that this movie... both of those things do the thing that this movie doesn't do, which is show the collateral damage.
Yes, and also do the work of making... Like, so... Bruce Willis starts off as, like, just sort of a surgeon with a heart. Like, in fact, they go out of their way to make that
And he's
point.
kind of meek. Like, he shies away from a fight, and his wife has to step in for it.
Correct.
So he's averse to conflict.
But we do know that he used to be a boxer or a fighter. Like, he used to get in fights and lose them.
He used to fight his dad and get beat up by his dad.
Fair enough. Like, hated that, but fair enough.
And, well, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right, of course.
Okay.
Well, no, it's all, like, prefacing, like, so he has it in him to be a vigilante. So, here's the thing. Like, here's the difference between him and whoever Robert De Niro's character, whatever his name was, I forgot.
Travis Bickle.
Nice. Travis Bickle or Walter White.
Mm-hmm.
Both Travis Bickle and Walter White start further in the crazy spectrum. Like, they start there so that when a tragedy hits them, they are tipped over the edge. And here's why that matters. Because if you have a guy who's starting all the way at meek doctor, like successful man, who's kind of a sweet guy, really,
Yeah.
and then like becomes a vigilante over a single crime that happens to his family, if you want us to believe it or care about it, it has to come from a believable place.
Right.
And they didn't do that.
Yeah,
know?
he has to already be kind of going in that
It has to be possible.
There's something has to be like he has
Right.
to have some vulnerability or some kind of instability. Like something has to be.
The city has to wear on him a little bit, or like he has to have been worn down by all the gun violence that he has to solve, right? Like you just need to do that work. Where
that's something that I thought that we're going to have a lot of. There's going to be a lot of, oh, they planted this piece of information that I thought was going to pay off in this way, and then it just doesn't.
Right.
Like when they were doing the juxtaposition of him cleaning the gun versus him performing surgery.
Yeah.
And
fine.
And it shows him it shows him in the bottom half of the screen loading the gun, and the top half shows him taking out the bullets. And when you see the bullets, they're all mangled and twisted.
Yes.
Like you see how gruesome it is when a bullet actually hits the body.
You do.
So I thought they were going to do more with that.
Well, the montage was to an AC/DC song. Am I wrong? That was a montage.
No, that was the montage to the AC/DC song.
Right.
Yeah.
So that tells you already you have a filmmaker who doesn't understand what comment that he wants to make.
Right.
Because that's not how you do that.
No.
That makes it cool. And we don't need him to be cool when he's a vigilante. We need him to be over the edge.
Yeah.
You know? Like, he's not John Wick.
No.
He's Walter White. Like that, you know, I mean, not meth lab, but, you know, vigilante Walter White. Like, guy who goes too far, takes matters into his own hands, becomes comfortable with increasing violence and death because he's consumed by a thing that he can't solve. That's Walter White. That's Travis Bickle. Those are both better examples of how this goes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That AC/DC song is a perfect way
Retire them from movies altogether.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need any more AC/DC.
Like, it's a punchline.
Yeah.
It's like, I cannot take whatever's about to happen seriously.
Like, I guarantee you Judd Apatow wouldn't use them in his movies because it's too obvious.
It's too silly, yeah.
It's too obvious.
Yeah, it's just too fucking funny.
At what point did this movie go off the rails for you? When was it like, what?
When his father-in-law pulls the truck over to chase after poachers on his land.
We laughed our fucking asses off at this.
It is, like, context. The movie has been, up to this point, fairly competent.
It's been bland and generic, but it was you could follow it.
It was consistent in its tone.
Sure, it had it was like every other quasi-thriller tragedy movie.
Right,
point,
but it was consistent in its tone.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And like, he was a sweet man, and this terrible thing has happened.
Right.
It was completely avoidable, and now it's just...
Well, and completely random.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we would also say.
Yeah, it was random, and it was also like... And I'll get back to that avoidable part, because... Anyway, we'll get back to that.
Right.
But it's... So, he's leaving his wife's funeral in the car with his father-in-law, who's...
How old would you say he is?
His
80?
father-in-law? Probably
85?
70.
No. Bruce Willis is 65.
Yeah.
And he looks it. This guy is older than that. This guy's in his 80s.
Right, but they would have us... I think they were having us believe that Bruce Willis was like 50s.
Well,
because his wife was Elizabeth Goddamn Shue.
She's in her 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's also...
They said she was 43, by the way. They mentioned her age.
That's true.
No. Sorry.
We also know that she's 20 years younger than Bruce Willis, at least, right?
She looks... I mean, the guy looks old.
He does. He looks like Homer Simpson, and she looks like she is 2 decades younger than him.
This is one of the first times in quite some time that I think that Bruce Willis was miscast in a Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like this called for Bruce Willis of 15, 20 years ago. Like, that's who needed to be in this movie. And ideally somebody who had a little more range. You know, like maybe even fucking Harrison Ford when he was younger. Like, somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Willis at this age is so... It's implausible that he has a daughter who's 18. That's completely fucking implausible. Like, it could happen because of biology, but it's very much difficult to believe, right?
Yeah.
With that woman who's 50,
Yeah.
what is the math on that? That is like a fucking nightmare.
It's
you know,
bananas,
like,
yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yeah.
And, like, then he's with his father-in-law, who by logic
Must be 80. It's gotta be 80.
Must be 80 years
So
old.
he pulls... They're in the middle of this emotional conversation where it's like, he just had to bury his daughter next to his wife, who also died too soon. And he's like, well, I'm going to be buried out there, too. And Paul, you'll have a spot out there, too. You can be buried out here with my family. And he's like, thank you. And then all of a sudden, he slams on the brakes.
Is impossible what happens next.
And tops the 80-year-old man slams on the brakes, hops out of the car, and peers into the cornfield next to them for a very long time.
For a thing we don't know what he's looking at.
We don't know what he's looking at.
What is this going to be?
It's bewilderment because we're in like Bruce Willis's shoes and he doesn't know what the fuck is happening. He's very confused by what's happening, and so are we.
So are we. That's the point.
Yeah. So he jumps in the car and drives around into this field. Hops out of the car with a shotgun that comes out of nowhere.
That's right. And can I just add, it's not a car. It's a gigantic fucking truck.
It's like an F-350.
Like, this man couldn't even get in the truck without breaking his hip. But fair enough. He's driving this. He's careening around a corner with this fucking truck.
He comes up on this patch of land and leaps out of this gigantic pickup truck with a shotgun already in hand.
Yes, he does.
And starts shooting at these guys who jump into their car, who jump into their pickup truck and drive away. And then he just kind of says, "Poachers."
And what they were poaching was a deer, which is already like, what?
A single deer.
Right, there were 7 men.
That he went...
7 men who didn't fire back. They just scattered like fucking human vultures. Like, he just takes out his rifle, starts shooting, no questions asked. Didn't go like, hey man, what are you doing with that deer? Didn't do any of that.
Yeah,
just pulls out his gun, starts shooting at him.
On the way from his daughter's funeral.
He's 80!
Shooting at some guys for over a deer.
It's like, it was...
And you see the deer, and it's like stomach is blown out.
Yeah.
So they're like shitty hunters.
The deer's over.
Like,
yeah, that deer's over.
They're like, that's not how you hunt. You don't blast the animal apart.
Right.
Like,
poaching this deer for what? By the way? For fucking hooves? Like, what are we taking from the deer?
Are they just hunting like out of season?
I just had a really big problem with the fact that they all ran and scattered. I just had a really hard time with that.
And it was in someone's backyard too. It wasn't like in the forest. like there was like a ranch style house back there.
That scene was like just a middle finger to all movie audiences everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, I dare you to think this is credible. I fucking dare you to find any piece of this credible.
He ends the scene by saying, sometimes you gotta take matters into your own hands, and then he executes the deer.
Right. I mean, the scene was clearly designed to lay the groundwork. The scene was clearly designed to lay the groundwork for Bruce Willis needs to become a vigilante.
Yeah.
But it was as baffling and incoherent and poorly executed as all of Bruce Willis's fucking vigilanteism is.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It has nothing to do with anything. Poaching!
Yeah, poaching deer? Who's like in the market for who's in the market for like deer eyes or whatever the fuck?
Somebody's backyard.
It's clearly not the poacher's backyard.
No,
they fucking Dukes of Hazzard right the fuck out of there. You know?
They had to drive around the house to make their getaway. And by the way, this 80-year-old man, Bruce Willis's father-in-law, is just shooting at the car. They drive away. Again, this is somebody's backyard. He's firing his gun at a house.
Yeah, I would say that when Tom and I laughed, it's one of the most genuine laughs I've had in years and years. And we laughed very loudly in the theater. There was a couple about the age of said riflemen behind us who were like pretty displeased. I felt their displeasure at my back.
You could feel it in waves.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
That's dumb.
I'm sorry. This is what laughter is for.
Yeah.
This human fucking expression is for this moment. It's impossible.
And from that moment on, like...
It was insane.
Yeah, the movie was totally insane. It couldn't figure out what tone it was.
It couldn't figure out whether it agreed with what it was doing.
Right.
It couldn't figure out what the point of the vigilanteism was. I mean, other than being a movie that's that kind of movie.
Right. Like, it kept like posing questions.
Yes.
And then never following them. Like,
it was made by a person who never stopped to consider in a very serious way what makes a person do this. And like what would what would they want to get out of being a vigilante, because they assume there's just sort of obvious answers to that.
Right.
There's a sad thing in my life, and I only feel better when I've killed the bad guy. That's not how this works.
Right, and they give us the information leading up to the point where he ultimately decides to put on a fucking hoodie and go out and shoot people.
Right, just a generic Banana Republic hoodie, by the way. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have gotten an Old Navy.
Everything leading up to that moment is him becoming more and more frustrated over the lack of anybody being arrested. He's despondent because he can't be at work and he can't be at home.
What did you think of Dean Norris as the detective in this movie? The detective who...
The jolliest detective in Chicago?
A little bit. Like, I would say his purpose was to communicate to the audience and to Bruce Willis's character, like, listen, I do care about your case, but the reality of crime is that it's not going to get solved. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you
or
that,
it's going to take a very long time.
Right, it's not likely that it's going to get solved, right? But they cast the wrong guy for that. You know, like Dean Norris is an excellent actor. I love him. I just watched Breaking Bad again. He's excellent in that. But he's good because he cares too much. Like, that's what he's good for. You don't want him as, like, sort of jaded cop who...
Did you get jaded from him?
That's what he needed to be.
You
he
think?
needed to be that in order for this part to work. You know, he needed to be, like, somebody who cared a little less than Lester Freeman, but had the same sort of, like, yeah, man, I'm going to do what I can. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need that kind of figure.
Yeah, it keeps, like... Because there's a couple of... What I had a thought before that.
Sorry.
Oh, all the information that pushes him up to deciding to go out and become a vigilante.
Yeah.
He goes out and becomes a vigilante with no goal. Like,
exactly.
up to that point, it was like, okay, he's going to try to figure out who committed this crime.
Right.
He doesn't do any. He just wanders out into the street and shoots at random carjackers.
That's the hugest problem in the movie, is he's not killing his way to the truth. He's kind of just a murderer.
He kind of accidentally runs into somebody.
Yeah, well, he's a murderer. I mean, even if he's doing it for the right reasons, like, there's no pathos to it. He's just a cold-blooded killer instantly. That's insane. You know, like how do you even get to that point?
I mean, you could make a very compelling movie on that premise.
Well, I think the idea of a doctor getting so detached from human life that he finds himself able to kill people is an interesting movie. I could see that. Like, you know, like, that's an interesting idea. And this could have been a fine reason for that to happen, but that's not the movie they made. You know, those are just facts.
It's like he kills a couple of random criminals, and then a clue to his wife's murderer falls into his lap.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just and then that's when he starts going on the actual crime solving part. And here's another thing that I thought they were going to do, but again, this movie does not ever deal with collateral damage, which you have to have in this movie, or else you're just...
For it to be moral.
Right, or else you're just making a statement like, yeah, kill everybody that wrongs you.
Or else you're playing AC/DC during a montage. Basically.
Right, about murdering people.
Right.
They show him interfering with the police. Like, they show him destroying valuable evidence, killing a valuable witness.
Correct.
2 valuable witnesses.
Planting evidence, too. He plants evidence to... Right? Doesn't he drop the ring on purpose?
That's unclear.
But they found his ring, which led the police
it falls on the floor when he turns, so it's
How?
The movie doesn't make it clear.
And it
to me when that happened, I thought he did that by accident, because I thought it was going to play out in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to tie him to the scene. Right. And then I was like, oh, right, he's in a warehouse that's full of all the stuff that the guy stole from him. One of those things being his ring. Like, we know they stole his ring because it's one of the things he lists as being missing.
So presumably he left it out there so that they would come to him and try to solve the case, but then they kind of don't. Or I guess it doesn't matter.
I think they were just showing us that he knocked the ring on the floor, and then it has them come to him.
Who cares?
Because he took the... I don't know. It only makes sense if you were going to follow through on the thread that he is that his obsession with, justice isn't being done.
Right.
Once they're finally starting to turn in his favor, he's interfering with it because he's got to kill the bad guys.
Right. It's got to be him now.
Yeah.
But you don't get any of the pathos of that. Again, like, you don't... Like, see, again, do we believe Bruce Willis still has it in him to be interesting in a movie? Do we believe that's possible anymore? I don't know if I do. It's been a long time since he.
I don't know. I
made him interesting.
I liked him in Moonrise Kingdom.
I thought that was an average movie, but I thought he was good in it. I am with you on that.
It's an interesting role for him to play.
What, 8 years ago? How long ago was that?
2013?
Okay, so 5 years ago. So
2012, 2013 is
okay. I mean, 5 years isn't an eternity, but it's a bit.
Yeah.
You know, there's just sort of... All of our older actors pass a point in their career where they're no longer trying because they're no longer inspired or just don't have it anymore or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's what happens when you become a celebrity actor is like you're just... People have such a piece of you all the time that you can't really be emotionally exposed anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to turn that off.
Yeah.
And that made this movie bad in a way that it might not have been bad if he was just still a good actor. Like, he could have done things that would have linked these scenes together more, and it would have felt like a more intentional movie, but he doesn't have it anymore. Like, he can't get really worked up during any kind of... Like, he can't get worked up for anything.
Right,
He's
like when he gets...
all the time.
In the scene when he gets worked up over the fact that his daughter's in handcuffs, I didn't believe that at all.
No.
He said, my baby's in handcuffs and they're out there.
Really bad.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. And
that should have been... First of all, that was the wrong line. That was bad writing.
Yeah.
You could have written a million other things that would have had way more emotional weight than she's in handcuffs and they're out. Like, just saying my daughter's handcuffed to a hospital bed.
Well, the other guy's
just
walking out free.
Just not even you don't even need that. You can just he could have just said my daughter's handcuffed to a hospital bed.
Yeah.
And just the weight of that is all we needed to experience. But like, so it was the wrong line, and he delivers it wrong.
And then it keeps being a line. Like it stops caring about when we already got it. This movie is overwritten a bunch of times. That's a problem in it. Like, there's just sort of stuff we didn't need to hear, and also times where we don't need lines. Like, we need looks.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I brought up Breaking Bad, because that is almost every major piece of emotional transition in Breaking Bad is done without dialogue. It's all done with looks and with like how the cameras look, like where the camera is, and the transition happens in the actor's eyes. That is how you do it. And Breaking Bad is the seminal way to talk about a man snapping. That's the text for that.
A man in a spiral. He's
right,
pulling everyone down with him.
And so, like, this is a movie that is saddled by a director who either can't get this out of his actor, or an actor who can't do this work anymore. Like, can't actually manifest those things anymore.
I think it's both. You won't find incredible performances in Eli Roth movies.
Yeah, and like this movie could be really fucking good if he got. Like, I'm not even saying change the action scenes or even the narrative, although I think that has major problems. I think if you just had a really believable performance, you feel way differently about this movie. Like, it's way better. You know, we're like, wow, this guy like really went through a journey. Like, if you have Bryan Cranston, but the right age Bryan Cranston, doing this exact role, and he's like a little bit yoked, that's an amazing movie. You know, like, or it's better.
You could even
switch D'Onofrio and Bruce Willis. I thought that too.
Yeah, it's like Vincent D'Onofrio should be playing the lead.
Well, Vincent D'Onofrio is a guy who you believe is one loose cannon
on
away
the fringe,
from,
because he's played that, but he plays it almost all the time.
Right, and I think he was cast in this movie because of that as a mislead. Because we were talking about as we were coming out of the theater, like, why was Vincent D'Onofrio in this movie? What was
the point of him in this movie? Yeah.
And I contend, and I would still say, like, he's there because we think he's going to be the bad guy because of who Vincent D'Onofrio is. And that's why that part exists. Otherwise, it doesn't work at all.
Well, there's a couple of ways to pursue it, too. Again, this movie does not deal with collateral damage at all.
Right.
He gets into a shootout in a nightclub, and no innocent people get shot. Like,
That's all we wanted.
No, but I'm saying, like, he keeps walking into crowded, like, in the middle of a street and shoots somebody in the middle of a neighborhood.
It's insane.
Shoots him a lot.
Totally crazy. And nobody gives up a description of him or films it. Come on, it's insane.
Yeah, and then they show two kids mimicking the shooting.
Right, in a scene that we've already seen in The Wire.
Right, but they show us that scene so that they get a clue about the shooter being left-handed.
It wasn't clear when we were watching it what we were supposed to get from it.
That's what I got.
Right. Well, no, you get it because there's dialogue after that explains what you saw.
Well, in the middle of it, Dean Norris goes like, "Let me see that video."
Yes.
What hand does our shooter shoot with?
Oh, does he ask that question?
He asked that question.
Yeah, I fucking missed that.
Yeah, and then he looks
That's
at the kids.
Line.
It's a bad line. But like,
How else do you do it?
It's also misusing what should be treated a different, like 2 kids mimicking a shooting they just witnessed. You need to treat that for what it is, not that's collateral damage. But they don't focus on that really. They don't focus on what kind of,
again, it's a quotation. It's a quotation of like an exact quotation of the scene from the first or second season of The Wire where the kids are acting out Omar's robbery. I don't remember exactly what, maybe 33, one of the first 3 seasons. And that's how the cops track onto Omar as they watch these kids doing an imitation of it. And it's handled exactly the same way. Like, literally exactly the same way.
It's weird.
It's not weird. That's a clear quotation because, like...
Right, no, I'm saying it's a weird... I think not ever... I don't know. I feel like not ever addressing what that means, like...
Right.
For those kids and for the community and for, like, he never can... Like, as many times as he hits us over the head with all the how much gun violence there is in Chicago, he never connects those 2 things.
Not really. Not emotionally. Because then it's not fun.
Yeah, of course.
That's what he believes, and you can see that.
And then go ahead.
I was going to say, like, again, this is why I went back to Taxi Driver, because Taxi Driver, you're driving in a car watching the streets be sort of, ranted with filthy people, right? Like, just awful people. This movie decided to do that. The effect of that is to just listen to a pastiche of news reports about gun violence while we're tracking a single police car through the city, and then kind of keep doing it. And those are just very different feelings.
You're not connected to it.
No, and I think that's what we now need to understand as filmmakers and writers is, like, doing a news montage is almost always an emotionally distancing thing because we associate the news with a thing that's, like, far away or with exposition.
Yeah, it's lazy writing.
Right, and it's usually to get us to another scene.
Right, and it makes a worse film because you're not, like you just said, whatever it is they're telling us, you have zero emotional investment in it.
Right, I mean, and even as far back as the 70s, again, with Taxi Driver, like, the way to use a news montage that's interesting is to show how they get it wrong. Not to give us information. That's where it's really interesting, and that's how Taxi
and they do
Driver
that
uses
one time in this movie where the shooter's described as being a white male 30 to 35.
Right, and that was like, okay, sure. That's funny.
But then they never go anywhere with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing but again, they bring up the debate about whether vigilantism is an acceptable option, and essentially decide, wouldn't anybody do this? Isn't really this, like...
Yeah, they oh, man.
That's what they say.
I know, yeah, and they get, I mean, then they have the ridiculous gun store commercial, and then the gun store scene, with Bethany, who's just like, which is clearly, that scene is clearly making fun of gun owners.
Yeah, and clearly aware of all the archetypes that go with that. Like, the person they cast to play the part, all of it.
And then being like, oh, the paperwork doesn't matter. Right. Nobody ever fails the gun safety test.
Right, and, like, that's supposed to be this, like, haha, right, lefties, like, you know how it is, like everybody who thinks gun control matters is supposed to be like, this guy gets it. But the truth is, like, functionally in this movie,
he doesn't.
Yeah, it actually is an argument for the opposite side. Because
of course, yeah.
He is able to get a gun faster. He does do, quote-unquote, morally acceptable things. Makes the world a little bit better. Doesn't pay any real price for it.
No, he faces zero consequences for it, which is a really irresponsible.
Yeah, you know what would have made this movie a lot better? If when he had done that... Okay, so this is, like, I guess spoilers, but, whatever.
Yeah, there's spoilers in this.
Okay, so... When in the final shootout, when he kills the worst of the creeps that rob him in the beginning, those bullets were ricocheting off the wall. Should have killed his daughter. That's what should have happened.
Yeah, they even set up that that the first time he shoots a gun, it ricochets around in that room.
Right, and this time it doesn't.
Yeah, and you see the gaping bullet holes. Like, the whole... He brings it home to his daughter, like, knowingly brings it home when he brings his daughter home from the hospital. Like,
totally
he
crazy.
Knows this guy is going to come home. So that scene should have ended with his daughter getting killed.
Right, he played it fast and loose and thought he was going to be the hotshot guy who's going to take these guys on.
Forgot what was important.
Right, that's how all revenge movies go because that's what's true about revenge.
Right,
that is just a true thing.
Yeah, but that he just kills all the bad guys and that's it. And, like, the D'Onofrio character, he starts out being like, oh, this guy's kind of shifty, he's borrowing money all the time, he's going to be the ringleader of the crime. Right. And then they go to question him, the police go to question him because they think he's the guy that's the vigilante.
And he acts like a hard case about it, by the way. Like, which you know what I mean?
We know that he's been to jail before.
Man, you catch things that I meant. Like, I don't remember when they said that.
It's his first conversation with him when he
says, "You've been in jail."
No, when he asks him for money outside the restaurant.
I remember that.
He's like, I need money. It's like, man, I'm ex-con. I got he says
ex-con, fuck.
He says like ex-con, or I've got a record. It's like it's hard for me to get a job.
So I know why I lost that, because I said right before he said this, like I whispered to you,
yeah,
I need money.
And that's exactly what he says.
And I was like super proud of myself for a good minute, so I missed an important detail.
You're just sitting there beaming.
Yeah, I really was.
You missed a real important detail.
I was one of those guys whose face lit up like a fucking iPhone in the theater. I was so happy with myself.
So I mean him being sort of kind of abrasive to the cops made sense to me. But like,
sure,
because he's like, these guys are fucking hassling me again. I'm just here. Can a guy go to the batting cage?
Right. I could accept that, knowing that fact also.
So then they make it look like, oh no, his brother's gonna go down for the shit he's doing. That would be an interesting way for him to experience repercussions
and consequence. Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, oh, maybe because then his brother is home with them when the bad guys are staking the house. Like, oh, maybe his brother's gonna get killed.
Yeah.
But none of that happens.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe this is a little philosophical, but I'm interested. Like, is it too boring now in a story to do consequences of negative actions? Like, are we just tired of that format? The Grecian tragedy? Like, are we just tired of it? Because, like, this movie is one of the most cynical movies I can ever remember, simply because it doesn't adhere to the formula of when a man takes the law into his own hands, he dies by the sword, sort of thing. You know, like,
right, or he
suffers somehow.
He loses something.
Right.
When he does
That's
it.
the moral
and
we've grown up with.
They do it briefly in another fucking news montage.
Right.
When we see a guy wearing a hoodie that's not Bruce Willis goes into an alley to try to stop a mugging or a rape, and the guy just shoots him dead.
But we don't really care about that.
And then they go on the news. You hear the news montage being like a 40-odd-year-old father of 3 was gunned down because he's doing the copycat stuff. He's also trying to be a vigilante. Like, that's a legitimate type of consequence you could have pursued, because it's like that's the reality of vigilantism. Is you're going to get fucking killed because you're an idiot and you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Like that's the reality of it.
Well, there's so many ways to do a vigilante story and make us feel satisfied with it in terms of just being, like, paying off narratively. None of them involve nothing happens to the guy who takes the law into his own hands. That's always the wrong decision. So much so that, like, you don't see movies like that.
They don't make that movie. Like, the better... And I mentioned this as we were walking in the theater, and this is not regarded as being a good film either, but it's a vastly superior version of this type of story. Is the film Death Sentence.
Interesting.
By James Wan, who made Saw. It has Kevin Bacon and John Goodman in it, and it's very much the same story. His son is killed in a random act of street violence. I think
he's being Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon's son.
Yeah.
His son gets killed, I think, in a convenience store holdup. And he becomes obsessed with tracking down the killers.
Right.
And it winds up fucking ruining him. Like,
right.
He uncovers this... Basically the same thing happens. They come to his house, except when they come to his house, they fucking fuck him up, and they kill the rest of his family.
Yeah.
Like, and then
that's right.
And then, but he lives.
It's way worse. Yeah.
He survives that attack, and then there's like another epilogue where he like finally tracks down like the last guy, and it's like it's basically kills himself to kill this other guy, and they actually have like a really like a genuine like emotional scene in this weirdly violent over the top revenge film where it's just they're both kind of sitting next to each other like dying, and he's like, well, I gotta kill you now, this is like the only thing I've got left, you know, I've got to do this. And then the bad guy's like, yeah, I guess you do. Like, you got nothing.
I can see that.
Yeah, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
Except this.
Go ahead, man.
So it's. I mean, I've told you the movie, but it's like it's a better version of this because it has actual consequence, and you see, like, you can't do this kind of... I mean, that's why the film's called Death Wish.
Right.
Like,
well, I think that's actually just a really poor name.
It's a bad...
movie.
You're right,
Yeah.
but, like, if you're going to interpret that in the way that, you know, a good writer would do, like, that's what you would do.
Right. And, I mean, they call it Death Wish because that's a brand that they can capitalize on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm thinking of movies that are about revenge that don't... I'm trying to think of even one other one that lands in the same place this one did, and the only one I can think of is In the Bedroom. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
In the Bedroom? It's great. It's based on Andre Dubas' short story, and it's with Tom. What's his name? He was in. He was in Michael Clayton. Went crazy in Michael Clayton. He's been in 100,000 things. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He's the doctor in that.
Oh, Tom Wilkinson.
Tom Wilkinson, thank you. And Sissy Spacek are parents, like older parents, whose daughter ultimately dies, and I won't say exactly why, because I think you should watch this movie. And you think the movie's going to be about grief, and it is, for like 2/3 of it. And then suddenly you realize it's going to be a revenge movie.
Sweet.
And it's a drama. It's not a fucking... It's not... There's no AC/DC in it. You know,
Right.
like, and the consequence in that
Shoot
movie...
the thrill!
Right. The consequences in that movie are more implied, like the sort of implied toll that it takes.
Yeah.
You know, that's not happening in this movie.
No.
Yeah, that's not happening at all.
None of that. He's fine.
Can anybody answer? I mean, can you answer where the other two guys came from? The final robbery.
Nope.
Like, one of them had a machine gun.
Two of them had machine.
What in the unholy shit is that?
Yeah.
Like, are these guys the Nazis from Breaking Bad? Like, what's going on?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What's
just,
going on here?
We gotta have them have like two random stooges come with them.
Well, who are these clowns? Like, why would they work for this fucking jackal? You know, this, like, obviously perverse, criminal-feeling bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, like, one of the least likable people you've seen rendered in cinema.
Yeah.
You know, like, why would anybody, like, you know, man, I'm going to come to this house and rob it twice. You're right, I'm going to come with you for that.
This guy, I've seen him in one other movie. He played, did you see The Nice Guys?
I did not see the Nice Guys.
All right, then you won't know this character.
Fair enough.
He played for listeners at home, he played the guy in The Nice Guys who got the blue paint all over his face, like the real slimy, shitty henchman. That's this guy's MO. That's who this guy plays.
That's his deal.
He plays shitty henchmen.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's like cartoonishly shitty.
Cartoonishly unlikable.
Just like, all right.
I mean, God bless that guy. He inhabits it. Like, he owns it.
Yeah, he's doing his best.
He looks in the mirror and is like, I'm very hateable. I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to make this work for me.
You can't help how the camera renders you. Like,
right.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
You know? So, like Christoph Waltz is never going to play the romantic lead. That's not happening.
No.
He's going to play gleeful fucking maniac every time.
Yeah.
So, lean into it, man. You know?
Sure. Just, you know what you're good at.
Yeah. What else do you want to say about this movie?
It definitely wasn't boring.
Yeah, I haven't seen John Wick, but, like, John Wick's a revenge movie, right?
Yeah, but John Wick is way more of an action film.
That's what this movie needed to be.
Like, this had a couple of action sequences that were very brief.
Yeah, like, I just think we have a genre of film where we don't expect people to have emotional consequences, and it's action movies.
Yeah.
Like, this movie didn't quite get over the hump for that. That's what needed to happen.
I will say both John Wick and John Wick 2, more emotions than this movie.
See, that's, I mean, yeah.
It's a better film.
Well, everybody, like, this is like just, like, film school 101, guys. I'm gonna, like, this is, like, seriously something they tell you first day of fucking film school. Movies are emotion machines. That's what they are. They deliver emotions. The movie is always bad when the character doesn't feel the emotions that they need to feel. No matter what the genre. That's always a problem. You know, so... I mean, I'm not trying to be condescending to Eli Roth, but, like, it's bananas that he accepted this emotional arc out of his actors.
Yeah, he's not...
It's crazy.
He's not a...
I mean, like, the guy's being paid a lot of money to make these films. Like,
sure.
You know, and I know a lot of very talented filmmakers who would not suffer that. You know, like, that shouldn't be happening.
No. You get, like, this one line where he's talking to his therapist.
Oh my god, the therapist. Yeah, just the whole idea of those scenes, like nothing is happening at all.
Yeah, we're not getting anything from this.
Right, this isn't, he's not Tony Soprano, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
a character where you're getting a lot out of nothing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Bruce Willis is no James Gandolfini.
No, he sure isn't.
Like, that's definitely
I think
true.
they might share the same breathing.
But when he says, oh shit, what does he say? He's like, I'd like to say, and this could have been an interesting line,
Okay,
so I suspect it might be from the novel.
okay.
Because whoever wrote this screenplay doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
They're very, they didn't have high standards. That's clear.
Yeah. He says, I'd like to say everything reminds me of my wife. But really, everything reminds me of them. But he
Right.
doesn't deliver it that way.
Yeah.
He
and
says-
you see him driving around, like, this,
Yeah.
I got revulsion at that moment, because I was
But-
like, this is a dumb twist for this.
But like the way that I just said it,
Yeah.
like a person would say that
That's
information, that is not how he gives that information.
Right.
He says, I'd like to say everything reminds me of her, but everything reminds me of them. That's how he delivered it.
He did say it that way, that's true.
Which tells me that he didn't understand what he was saying, because there's no way you would say, like, I had to make a real strong effort to say that the way that I just said that.
Well, again,
Like-
so, yes, you did, because it's not natural. Because
Right.
you understand the comparison.
Because I know what that piece of dialogue is
Right.
doing. Bruce Willis did not understand that he was making a comparison when he said that line.
Yeah.
At least in that take that they used in this film.
I think we're forgetting that, like, one of Bruce Willis's, like, great tools as an actor is being sort of a little off-brand emotionally. Like, he's always been that guy. You know, like in Die Hard, for instance. He's likable because he doesn't freak out or react emotionally the same way that you would in a terrorist attack. He's a little bit more like, these fucking guys. Like, he's, like, more, like, sort of lovably fatigued by them than he is, like, infuriated. That's who he is. Now, he's been in movies that really was an advantage for him.
Yeah.
This is a movie that exposes
It's a
how
huge
limited that really is.
disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because one more thing that I want to point out, when he gets the phone call,
Right.
when he's sitting in his bunker talking to Bro Vincent about
boy.
his vigilante rampage,
Oh, boy.
and he gets the call that his daughter, who has been in a coma for months at this time, is awake.
Yeah.
He does not react.
Well, yeah, he doesn't. And
He absorbs that information and says, she's awake.
Right, he does. I mean, the other thing that's infuriating about that moment is
Like-
that he gets a phone call, he says the words, I'll be right there, and then, as though the filmmaker didn't understand how cutting works, gave us the line, she's awake from her coma. We don't need the line, she's awake
Need
from her
that.
coma.
To show
He
him
just says,
running
I'll be
into-
right there. We're like, what is it? Cut
then
to
show-
hospital,
yeah.
turn around, oh, she's awake! Oh!
Yeah, show them rushing into her room.
Exactly.
We know immediately what that phone call
Right,
was.
and that's more fun because for 2 seconds we're wondering what it is.
Yeah, we don't know what
That's what
we don't
movies
know who's
are.
got, yeah.
What is it? What's it going to be? Oh, it's this. Oh, cool. Or, oh, bummer. You know, like, he didn't do that. I don't know. Sorry. It makes me irritated when they, like, it's such an obvious thing to do.
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
can't
There's a
understand
lot
it.
of, there's a lot of, like I said, I suspect Eli Roth is a bad writer because
I
that's a
mean-
thing you spot. It's like you don't need that information. like-
I just, like, again, you went to, did you go to film school?
No,
Okay. What was your undergrad in? Not where, but what?
communications.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't go to film school for undergrad. I went to it for graduate school, and basically those are the exact kinds of things that immediately people pick up on, and because it's such an easy thing to like compete with your fellow students and be like, that's bad, cut that line, because it's true. You know what I mean? So you like ingrain those rules so immediately that I don't understand how he doesn't see that.
Well, what's I mean, I have a lot of friends, present company included, who
Right.
went to film school. And
Right.
one of the big rules is, well, it's a movie show, don't tell us.
Right? Why do we need that? Like,
Like we talked about earlier, don't do a news report. Show fucking Travis Bickle driving around and looking at all the fucking shit that's happening in the city.
and it's not just Eli Roth. His producer didn't think that line needed
Nobody
to be cut.
did!
The studio didn't think that
His
line needed
fucking
to be cut.
editor didn't be like, what if we cut here?
Yeah. Like what? Just like how many failures down the line brought us that moment? Like just so many. Yeah. I haven't seen a movie with dialogue that frustrating in a long time. You know?
It's bad. There's a lot of bad dialogue.
Yeah, and like I'm hard on movies as I think you are also. In part because I love them, and in part because I want them to be.
I want them to be better. Yeah.
Yeah, I want them to be as good as they can be. And when there's a great movie, it's a real highlight for me. Like a big moment. This was disappointing that somebody gave it $10 million or whatever it cost to make it. $30 million? I don't know.
I'm sure it wasn't that much. Let's
how
find
much
out together.
How much does Bruce Willis cost?
I don't think he costs as that much anymore.
Are you sure?
When was the last
He's
big
the only
Bruce
reason
Willis
that movie
hit?
gets made.
That's very true. Let's find out together how much.
While you're finding this out, I'd like to pose the question for the audience to think about at home. Why was Charles Bronson a giant star? You know what I mean? Like, that's a really strange moment in cinema history that, again, this movie is drawing on. Charles Bronson, why did we love him so much? Can anybody answer that question?
Why was he allowed to be an action star?
Right, what was it true about our culture that we really connected to him as an action star? Because he seems so bland to me.
You're
What's
right.
the cost?
$30 million.
Yeah, and what does Bruce Willis cost?
Probably 20 then, right?
Yeah.
15, 20.
That money's all Bruce Willis money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, it's just legacy costs.
Yeah.
That's just what happens. Which is why he doesn't care. Because, I'm sure Bruce Willis would love to make a movie where he gets paid $500,000 to be in 3 scenes and they were really challenging for him. I think he'd love to do that. But nobody's calling him for that.
Right. He didn't get $20 million for Moonrise Kingdom.
No,
Moonrise
and that's
Kingdom
probably why
did
he cared.
Yeah, Moonrise Kingdom did not cost $20 million.
Because he did it for himself. He did it because he wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
That's how you get good movies.
Right. I'm sure this is just a case that he looked at this and was like, yeah, I can do this.
Right. Why should he be excited about this? This is a cynical idea.
Yeah.
Death Wish is
just
only...
ends.
Yeah, Death Wish is a thing that, exists in our sort of collective unconscious. And this movie studio is like, we can just use that title and sort of bring back, $20-30 million in the box office just for using the title. And then to be sure we got our money back, we put Bruce Willis in it. No matter what it is, it makes its money back. And there's something really cynical about that. It's like, fuck, man, I don't want that to be what movies are. I want somebody to I really love Death Wish so much that I want it to exist again. I think I'm the guy for that.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I would love that to be true. But there's no way that's what this was.
Or doing a Death Wish or a Taxi Driver, particularly after... you have the main character is dressed like Trayvon Martin. You can't make this movie after that shooting
and not be aware
and
of
not reference it.
Yeah.
There's value in making this movie now.
And I think he tried to touch it a little bit, but not
he
courageously.
No, I don't think Eli Roth knows how he feels about the gun debate, and he certainly didn't know what his movie should say about the gun debate, but definitely came down stronger on shoot everybody to death.
I don't think he understood what he was saying.
Yeah.
I really don't think he knew what he was arguing for.
No, he definitely didn't. Yeah.
I think it's interesting you brought up Trayvon Martin, because this was a movie that I think tried to solve the problem of bringing up those topics by sort of allowing a lot of noise. So, for instance, bringing up every aspect of the gun debate got brought up in this movie, which is really dumb. You know what I mean? You don't need to do that for a revenge movie. Didn't need to come up at all.
I don't think you make that movie today without mentioning the gun control debate.
Oh, I think you have to. You don't listen to if they make another Bourne Identity movie or something like that, they're not going to talk about where the guns come from.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
the importance of gun violence. They're just going to pick where the violence happens so they don't conjure images you don't want to think about.
Right. That's a different film, though.
It's a different film, but I think that's how mostly you solve these issues is you try to stay away from exact things that would duplicate these
you just
moments
don't
in
address
culture.
them, yeah.
Right. Instead, this movie felt like it was going to plunge into it by overtly quoting these things and by having a lot of racially diverse conversations. about this issue, but never really bringing it up head on. So he kind of like surrounded the issue with a lot of noise, I'll call it. You know, like just sort of like not quite addressing it, but feeling like it's being addressed. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It sort of suffocates the issue almost.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know where I land on this film is. I feel like it was. I feel like this could have been a good movie, but it just didn't. I feel like it feels like a missed opportunity to me.
I don't think there was any version of this movie that was good when it was about him being a vigilante.
Right.
And because I don't think that. Well, okay. I don't think there's any version of this movie that's good about him being a vigilante with the setup that exists. Of meek doctor has wife and child murdered.
Right. It was flawed from the beginning.
That's
like
a
that.
huge problem.
The broad concept.
Yes, because we've seen The Fugitive. The Fugitive is a great movie with almost exactly the same fucking premise.
Yeah.
It is. It's like
that is a
Yeah, doctor's wife is murdered. He gets blamed for it. That's different. Yeah. And then he has to go on the limb.
He has to solve it himself.
Right. He has to solve it himself, and he doesn't solve it with fucking guns. He solves it with, like, you know, amateur detective and, like you know, being smart enough to stay ahead, which is what a doctor should do.
Yeah.
You know? And, yeah, I don't know. I just think, why did we choose these elements? They just don't feel like they all were planned out. Because, again, wouldn't you love to watch the movie where the doctor is so indifferent to blood and guts and thinks of people as just sort of piles of body parts that he is actually close to being a sociopath?
Yeah.
You know, and this one thing tips him over. That's cool. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
And they almost did that, but didn't quite.
They get close to it.
They get close. There's one scene in particular where he's suddenly a doctor again. You're like, oh yeah, because doctors would know some things about how to make people feel pain. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And in one scene it was interesting. Yeah. You know? And then they kind of bailed on that. Right.
And when the movie starts and it introduces him as a doctor, I was like... Right. That's what I expected was that one scene you're talking about. It's like, oh, that's going to play into it this way because he knows the structure and he's detached from it so he can commit this violence and he knows how to commit this violence.
Right, in sort of in ways we don't see in movies because we don't watch doctors use their skills to hurt people. No. They, you know, like, that's what they don't do. Right. But this is the doctor that does it. Yeah. Again, it's Walter White. Like, Walter White solved all his problems for the most part until later seasons with, like, fucking weird chemistry stuff. You know, like, end of season 1, he has that weird bomb that he makes out of crystals. Yeah. Or, like, he solves shit with magnets, or, like, fucking... You know what I mean? Like, or, like, whatever that powder was that was, like, that they could blow up a lock. Like, just that kind of shit.
Yeah,
Ryzen. Like,
the very first hurdle that he and Jesse have to overcome is how to dissolve a body.
Yeah. And, like, they kept... And, like, the creators of that show, again, were very smart for continuing to bring up ways that chemistry... That this guy would uniquely solve these problems so they don't... So it's not something we've seen before. Right. You know, and again, this filmmaker has that idea. Has a doctor who could be a sociopath, doesn't use it, you know?
Uses it in one scene.
Use it in one scene, and it was fine.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, oh, that should have been the whole movie.
Right.
Like...
How'd you feel about the gore? It was a little gorier than I'm used to in a movie.
It's Eli Roth, man. I was expecting it.
See, I... I mean, truth be told, I had not heard of this movie before you called me to watch it with you today. So I was like, I mean, other than I knew what Death Wish was. Yeah. So I didn't know it was Eli Roth until minutes before. So I hadn't adjusted myself yet. For the insane gore that happened several times.
Pretty great.
Yeah, it really is. It makes you laugh a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So like what? Yeah.
I think it's designed like outside of Hostel. Yeah. Like if you watch like The Green Inferno or like, even parts of Hostel. Mostly Hostel 2 though. He's from the Tarantino school of he thinks gore is funny.
Yeah, it's certainly wacky and fun, and like, better when it's bigger.
In certain instances, yeah. In other instances, he gets real visceral with it, which is like, oh god.
But he's but that's part of the talent of his filmmaking, is like that he can use it both ways
in the same scene.
Yeah,
in that exact same scene, like when it shows you him cutting the guy's nerve and pouring brake fluid in it, that is not fun or funny.
It's really rough. You're like, oh god.
Yeah, you really feel that shit. And then when he drops the car on his head and his brain explodes out,
you laugh your ass off. What the fuck is that? Yeah.
So,
That's right. But like I've said so many shitty things about Eli Roth here that I do want to at least acknowledge. That's not easy to do.
Mm-mm.
Like switching tones sort of seamlessly with the same subject matter.
Yeah.
In the scene and it working, that's hard. Like
Yeah.
that takes a certain kind of talent, and he has it. You know.
Yeah, it's probably the best scene in the movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
I did really like his daughter though.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was a great part, but she lit up the screen so much. She was like such a likable person.
She was better than her parents.
I thought
Elizabeth Shue was fine.
Yeah, and I just miss her because
I don't see her in things anymore. Like,
yeah, I can't remember the last movie I saw her in that was current other than like Leaving Las Vegas, and that was fucking 20 years ago.
That was more than 20 years ago. It was 1995.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That movie hurts too.
That's a painful movie to watch. Yeah,
boy,
that's a brutal ass movie.
So like I kind of always like seeing her. It's like, you know.
Yeah, she's great. Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah. Fucking Karate Kid. That's the one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Karate fucking Kid. Yeah. Well, and also Soren's favorite, The Saint.
Oh yeah. Oh, she is. She's super into Saint.
Yeah. But so, how old is she now? Do you think?
50s.
Yeah. She looks pretty good.
Yeah, of course.
She looks great.
Yeah.
Good for her.
And she's fine. But yeah, you're right. Like the daughter was in those scenes that they had. I was like, oh, she's
probably because she's the only person that's cast correctly for her fucking age. Every other major star was 10 years too old to play the part they were playing, including Dean Norris.
Dean Norris
is 55. It's possible for detectives to be 55.
Yeah.
But you look at him, you think police chief. You know what I mean? Like, you look at him, you're like, this guy should be in charge of a detective
consequently,
unit.
the guy that they got to play the captain or the chief or whatever was so fucking old.
What fucking meth lab did they bring that guy
He
out?
was trembling as he's... he had the old person shakes.
That guy was skeletal.
He looked like a pirate ghost.
Yeah, he looked like a fucking sack of bones. Like, he really did. He really did. He was too old. It didn't make sense. He looked fucking drugged out. It was like, why is Dean Norris, who dresses nicer than this fucking meth addict, not in charge of this detective unit? Because he was too mature about things. You know what I mean? Like, Dean Norris, I think, played to his strength of being sort of likable and fun, and a bit of a cowboy, but also compassionate. Like, those are things he's good at.
Yeah.
None of that is right for this part. Like, none of it is. You know?
Yeah. Oh, man, this movie is so tonal.
I don't want to be a prick, but, like, why don't they cast McNulty in it? You know?
I don't know. He should have been in it.
Yeah, that's who you get for this part. Like, somebody who could care if he wasn't so fucking, like, the job hadn't bankrupted him a little bit.
Right.
You know, because that's what you need. You need a guy who's like, dude, look at this wall of people. Your daughter is one name on this.
Or even,
wall.
I mean, you run into the same problem because I think they're the same age, but like Michael Chiklis, because that's kind of the character.
Chiklis is such a fucking asshole, though.
That's true.
Chiklis is thoroughly unlikable, and that's one of his strong qualities. I
right.
would say.
Right.
And you can't like that guy. He is a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's what made that show so great.
Yeah.
You know. Also, there's behind-the-scenes footage of Darabont, who you love, Frank Darabont, directing an episode of The Shield, and he's working out the Steadicam stuff because everything in that show is fucking Steadicam, right? So, and that for the purposes of our listeners, Steadicam requires a lot more of the director to figure out how everybody's going to move because you have to make the camera catch all the beats in the move. So, like that involves complex blocking with the actors. So he's giving the actors sort of some blocking stuff, and Chiklis, Chiklis like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this other thing because that's how I would do it. And Darabont, you can see Darabont like just rage pouring out of his eyes, but he's like, okay, cool. Like, maybe show me what you want to do. And then like Chiklis fucking half-asses the blocking, just being such a piece of shit. And Darabont's like, okay. And he's like refigured out the whole fucking shot. Oh, it's great. It's not great because if I was Darabont, I'd be fucking livid. But like, that's how it works, man. You know, he's the star.
There's a couple of wonders in this too.
Yeah, there was some cool filming. I mean, honestly, it looked great.
Yeah, it was a good looking movie.
So here's my question: is it the right aesthetic for what the subject matter of the film is? Does it look correct for the film?
Not for the tone that it ultimately had.
Yeah.
Because he's a horror director, primarily. This is, I think, his first not horror movie. So he's good at staging things in a way that seem dark, or it seems like something bad is going to happen.
That's primarily done through lighting in this movie. Mm-hmm. It's not really done through blocking or through camera. It's done from how it's lit. Which is like and that is mostly what we mean when we say cinematography is lighting.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, but he doesn't do any camera moves that create the feeling of suspense. That happens maybe once or twice.
There's a few times, and they're both times are around when they invade the house.
Yes, that's when he got a little creative with camera.
Yeah.
He had one really banana shot that I wanted to call out because I was thinking at the time, like, why are we doing this?
Which one?
There was a long lens shot of an insert of a television when Bruce Willis walks into the fucking the liquor store.
Yeah.
And so it's a long lens shot, which means the camera is really far away from the subject, and long lens means I can't capture a lot of the physical space in the shot, right? It's pretty tight. So like he pans on this long lens from this insert of the television, fucking all the way across the room to this bowling ball that's like sitting on top of a ledge that's like sort of way high up in this office that he's in, right?
Yeah, surrounded by bowling trophies.
Right, and the bowling ball ends up mattering for plot reasons later, or for a gag later. But you don't know where the fuck that bowling ball is in the room because he's on a long lens. So you don't know what you saw. You're like, oh, a bowling ball, okay. And you don't know where the fuck it is. You have no idea.
It was a weird, that was bananas. Because he cuts to, right after that, if my memory serves, it cuts to an establishing shot of the room.
Which is where you go there.
You switch the,
right.
Like, why?
Why do we need this, like, pan that takes a full 3 seconds? Yeah. And I know that sounds like it's 3 seconds. Dude, 3 seconds of nothing is insane in a movie.
It was a weird decision.
It's not interesting or artistic, it's just bad. Yeah. It felt like the cameraman's like, what if I just had both things and like do a pan or whatever, and they just kept it. And you're like,
it was
what? Yeah, I'm sorry, I know we're being really nitpicky about it. So
it was so weird. It was like meant to, because he's watching bowling. He's watching scantily clad women bowl, and then it pans over to his bowling trophies and his bowling ball.
That weird ass shot we didn't need.
Yeah, so it was like, this guy's super into bowling in a way that I will never understand, but I accept.
Right, it might be sexual. Yeah, it's really hard to know.
But like, it was a weird way to present that information.
I mean, it was a way that suggested there was a connection to it.
Right.
But there wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, it said something that wasn't true of the movie.
What I'll tell you, the connection I made in my mind was earlier in the initial invasion scene where the one burglar looks over at the soccer trophy.
That
and
was
fine. The soccer trophy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought, that it was recalling that for a specific reason. And I guess it kind of does, because that's where he encounters the first of the burglars. But
you don't really get much out of that first.
No, you don't.
Trophy, other than, you like sports, I guess I'll rape you. Right? Isn't that like basically what that's for?
Yeah.
You like sports, you must be sexy, I guess is.
Well, that guy was already set up as a rapist.
Right. So why don't we need that bowling trophy?
He starts his.
What is that? What is it aesthetically?
I don't know.
It's not narrative. So what is it aesthetically?
I have no idea.
Nothing.
It's nothing. That's the only connection I had in my mind, and if it was intentional, which I'm not even sure it was, I think he was just showing us the bowling ball was there.
Right.
And then giving us a reason why it would be there.
Here's another thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
This is on the filmmaking side. So that's like really nitpicky about a single shot.
Sure.
I think that rich people houses in current movies are very boring to see, like to look at. They're good for space, like they're giant, so they have like interesting angles and stuff. But basically, the way you solve this problem is you make everything dark. You like you can shape and darken things in spots so that everything looks kind of spotlit, like it's theatrical, right? And this is in a lot of movies with fucking giant houses. And I just think they're not interesting locations in terms of getting character or tone or like sort of like cool substance emotionally from the space at all. Like, you don't get anything from it. Like, one of the reasons we like Wes Anderson is because he creates spaces that have feelings to them. He's fucking amazing at that. It's like, part of it's symmetry, part of it's the quirky art that he puts together, the color palette, the way he shoots it. It's all that stuff, and you get so much from where they are. And this movie is ultimately a sort of vengeful, like a vengeance flick, and it's bland. Like, that house they live in is bland, and that's where the first and last incidents are. It's in this house.
It's so bland that
It's totally not remarkable in any way. Not interesting in any way.
It's so bland at the end of the movie, I wasn't sure if it was the same house immediately when it shows the shot of the exterior. Because it's tighter in. The previous shot we had of the exterior showed the house's extension.
Right.
This one was tighter, so it didn't have the extension in the shot. So it's like,
right.
Is this the same house?
Right.
Like,
that was
it's
the problem.
so bland.
And it's
such a bland
introduced to
house.
us with a thing that's completely out of tone for the movie, which is a Beach Boys song with bright blue sky. Like, this is how we first see this house. This, like, over sunlit house when they're sitting at their fucking kitchen, dinette area. When they find out about the daughter gets into college. Like, it's introduced in this sort of idyllic way that's really cliche.
Yeah. I understand the reason you would do that. It's because...
It's paint-by-numbers filmmaking, for sure.
You show the thing... I mean, Carpenter does it more effectively in Halloween.
Yes.
But he shows the thing, then he shows you the normal thing, and then he shows you the thing and scary. Yeah.
Right. I just think that, again, even if you took exactly the same performance, but you made this house have the kind of character where there was a sense of corrosion to it, like there was a sense of it not being taken care of.
It starts to look meaner, and
there's
a couple
fit who this man should be.
Right, and I thought they were going to do it with the wound on his hand. Like
right.
The one time he takes a bandage off and it looks worse, I thought he was going to keep looking at it and it was going to be getting worse and worse and worse.
That would have been cool.
That would have been like a nice visual metaphor.
Right.
They didn't do that. They do one thing. That I thought was weirdly effective is when Vincent D'Onofrio first goes down to the basement and turns on the light, and the reveal of what that room is.
Yeah.
Taking it as a whole from the outside, that was a good reveal.
It was.
Because it was legitimately, like, shocking, even though there's nothing really shocking in it. It's just the way that the entire room as a whole told, like, a real grim story in a very quick flash.
That's filmmaking.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. To use, again, the same metaphor that I've been using, like, Breaking Bad does exactly the same thing that he tried to do with lighting. Season 1, you go to that house, and it's like a pretty normal house. Season 2, it's pretty dark. By Season 5, you can't even see the fucking walls in the house. It is black as night in there all the time. Like, impossibly dark in that house. Every place Walter White is looks like it hasn't seen the sun in decades. And you don't think about it because it feels right. It feels true.
It's,
that's what should have been happening in a more interesting way in this movie, and it wasn't.
Oh, man.
I've really shit on Eli Roth's cinematography
Oh, no, you're fine.
today.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine being the Eli Roth apologist. So, yeah, this is
a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
This is a movie that I don't think
movie.
anybody loved. Nobody loved it.
No.
It was everybody involved with it, it seems like, was there to make a movie and move on with their life.
Yeah.
That sucks. I don't want that. I want movies people cared for.
Yeah. Yeah. There was enough stuff in it that I was like, oh, you almost had something there that it was like...
It's weird how naturally and easily it occurred to both of us, too. And I don't think it's because we're brilliant. I think it's because, like...
Well, I'm a fucking genius.
Right. I just mean, like, well, you're invested in storytelling.
Yeah.
And you want something interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, these ideas immediately pop up to you. Like, why didn't any of them occur to him?
I don't know.
That's really weird.
It's easy for us to say we're not as close to it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just you get...
That's true.
You do get blindness when you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. That's true.
So yeah, don't see this.
This is not a movie you needed to see.
You don't need to rush out and see this.
How do you think it compares to the original?
Man, I haven't seen the original since I was a kid, but it's also not a great film.
Yeah, why do you think it had such zeitgeist then? Is it because Bronson? Because we love him?
No.
I can't figure it out.
Bronson, I think it was maybe the time, because it's the 70s, right? And gun violence was really starting to kick up right in the 70s.
I guess that's true. Bronson, to me, feels like a poor man's Burt Reynolds. You know what I mean? Like, I just think, like, that's kind of who he is.
Everything about him is narrower. His eyes are narrower, his mustache is narrower.
He's meaner looking.
He's meaner looking, yeah.
Tough, But, like, put a little bulk on Burt Reynolds. He was not such a nice guy.
That's true.
And he's fucking charming as shit.
Yeah.
Still, like,
he's
the old bastard.
Fucking Burt Reynolds.
Right.
The old piece of shit.
Like, you're just like, all right, Burt. Like, that's just how we handle that guy. Yeah, he just has that thing. Yeah. Are you going to... I mean, you're going to do it because you have to, because you have a sickness. But, like, are you going to keep seeing Bruce Willis movies? Because I
don't know.
Will not, if I can avoid it.
I didn't see the last Die Hard. Like, I have to be somewhat interested in it. And to me, like, Bruce Willis in a remake of Death Wish directed by Eli Roth was too fascinating for me to pass up.
Yeah, you were fixated on that.
Yeah.
To me, he's in the Anthony Hopkins zone now. Anthony Hopkins is in the zone where I don't want to see him in a drama. I don't want to see it.
He's not going to try.
No, because it's too...
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. I want to see him in something I don't expect, which is why I liked him in Westworld. You know?
Yeah.
And he was good in Westworld for being fucking...
If he's doing his thing... He
was creepy as fuck in that show.
He was doing a thing that he knows works, which is fine because
that's why
he's
he cast
fucking
him.
great. Yeah.
Have you ever watched Elephant Man? Or not Elephant... Yeah, Elephant Man, yes.
The
David Lynch film.
Again, it's been a long ass time.
Okay,
but
so, like, that movie is fun to watch for...
No one has ever said that, but continue.
I think it's really good. I really like
You
that
said
movie.
it's fun to watch.
It's kind of fun. I mean, like, it's not fun, you're right. But it's intriguing because Anthony Hopkins plays an emotionally available person in it.
That
You know
is
what I mean?
interesting.
Like, he plays like a human being.
He's
who's,
been
like,
playing a sociopath
having
for like
empathy.
35 years now.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, he used to be like totally different guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't Hannibal Lecter once
No.
upon a time. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where we landed. Go watch The Elephant Man.
Yeah, that's where we're like, if you want to see Anthony Hopkins not do Hannibal Lecter, go watch Elephant Man. This has been a podcast about Death Wish.
Yeah, pretty much.